So on today's episode, we'll be talking about Houser.com, the number one property portal in Dubai, according to us.
To us, yeah.
A broker-backed portal which has recently raised its pre-Series A funding to compete with other property portals. We're also going to be talking about ad placements on portals, the people and activity of coming back to Dubai and the schools and the busyness of the roads, and also the UAE being the number one diamond trader in the world, according to the news today.
Very, very interesting. So Houser.com, tell us a little bit about that, Lou. Houser.com was founded 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, or
are you going to tell me, or do you want me to say
during the pandemic? Tell me a little bit about it.
Okay, so the background with Houser. Houser was in the middle of the pandemic, which is just crazy to think that this happened. But I remember us all having, bear in mind that the CEOs don't really speak with the real estate companies ever pre-Houser, and we were having video calls talking about other portals and how they can support the agencies. And because you think about it like this, when the world was locked down and we were locked in our houses, we were paying portals on a subscription basis. So all of the portals have come back and said, look, we're on Property Finder, we're on Bayou, we're on all the portals, Rightmove in the UK. We shouldn't be paying for this if we can't actively do viewings. And as we were negotiating, we all seen there was a synergy of agents trying to work together and trying to create a better marketplace and generate more leads for their business. And that really led into conversations about how we could launch it. Now, that was probably one of the hardest negotiations I've ever been involved in trying to launch a company, because not me launched a company, everyone else launched a company, but there were so many egos when launched this business. You've got 10 CEOs there and 15 CEOs, all wanting large shares in the business, all willing to invest. And we come up with the idea really that we were going to launch it, and that was the inception. In the middle of lockdown, when the doors were closed, we decided we were going to have a go at getting Houser going.
So Houser is a broker-backed portal, so it is made up of 20 different real estate companies that are all shareholders in the business. Now, Lewis just alluded to that Houser was born from lockdown, and there is a genuine belief that Houser can do something different with the Dubai property market, where it can offer better quality of listings which are was actually an advert which went out yesterday, which when you actually call a listing, it's genuinely available and for sale. And Houser launched yesterday with its first to market strategy.
Yeah. Before we talk about first to market, I was talking to a friend about Houser, and they were looking for properties on other portals. And they ended up finding the property on Houser, which I thought was crazy, because it just shows our business concept from birth to where it is today worked. And I said to them, how has that happened? And the basic concept is there's only really good agencies on there that you can trust and believe in. That you can get swamped down with other portals of 20,000 companies or 20,000 listings in one area. So having really good shareholders creates a really good brand of listings, which saves a lot of people from wasting time. And that really come on to, I suppose, the shareholders about the first to market. First to market was launched yesterday, as you said, and the basic concept behind it is, how do you give a USP to a company like Houser, which is competing in a very big space? And very simply, if you want to find listings first in the market, they will show only on Houser for the first 72 hours, which I think is a massive, massive pull for anyone looking to get their listings before their neighbour or their friend. This is where you're going to find it.
Well, Dubai is super competitive, and particularly at the moment where we are very much in probably still a buyer's market, in a seller's market. And with that, you need to make sure that if it's a buyer, some buyers sometimes are missing out on properties where they're competing against 2 or 3 people, because there is such demand, particularly in certain communities. So with Houser, if you go on Houser.com first, you're more likely to see that property first than anywhere else, and you're getting a competitive advantage against all the other buyers out there. So from our point of view, it ensures quality, but ensures from a buyer's perspective, all the best listings go on Houser first.
So going through the whole Houser process, and obviously you got first to market, the listings. I mean, how many listings has Houser got on now?
Just shy of 50,000.
50,000 listings with some of the biggest companies in Dubai. I mean, what's interesting that come out recently is about the raise, the pre-Series A. Now, pre-Series A, for anybody that's interested, do you want to give a background what pre-Series A is?
Yeah, so basically, before the business goes to Series A, which is basically your first real round of funding to grow the business, Pre-Series A is essentially someone, it's around before the actual real main round of actually raising funds. So the business raised $5.5 million a couple of months ago, back in July, to really take the next stage of the business growth, really scale the business to be able to offer more leads to all of the real estate companies. There are now over 240 different real estate brokers all advertising their properties on Houser.
And that's interesting because obviously we've raised that. And what I love about the Houser model is that the number one brokers in Dubai, so everyone claims to be the number one broker, so I'm going to say the number one brokers in Dubai, the 20 that are on the shareholding board, they've all backed it with their own money. And that's what I love about it. And when I've been in a room with the CEOs of the companies, all they're interested in is how they can generate more business for their agents and how they can create a good experience for the consumer. So there's a very different mindset to this. I mean, if you go onto the website now, you can see recently sold properties. You can actually sell your house via Houser because they're not acting as a broker. They would generate a lead for the agency as a valuation. And that's really where the pre-Series A money's gone into. It's gone into creating a ecosystem of leads that are going to be coming into the
well, I think the property advertising and marketing side of things in Dubai is broken. I feel like there are so many loopholes where there are allowances for people to advertise properties that are not genuine, that are not even for sale. And the thing is with Houser is we talked about the quality of agencies advertising. I feel like if you're going on there first, everything you will see online will be real, it will be genuine. And I think that will be a huge part in actually our story going forward and Houser being a place to go to look for your property search.
Now, I'll leave it on one last thing with Houser because I don't want the whole podcast to be the Houser shout out, but there's also Deals by Houser, which is an interesting one. So This is a concept from America, and this concept is as simple as this. If you rent a house via an inquiry on Deals on Houser, if you go onto the Houser website, you will see the Deals by Houser. What that means is there's select properties. If you rent that house, you will be given a gift voucher or a free painting or free AMC, completely free. There's only given to you via Houser.com. So again, another thing to really make a consumer feel, if I want a free AC maintenance or the 1,000 dirham home furniture, you go through Houser and you get it. So another very, very unique USP. So I want to jump on to the next part of the subject matter I'm going to talk about, which is ad placements.
Yep.
So this is a big one for me. This is something that Dubai Land Department launched last month, I think it was. There was a circular that went around, and the circular was just backing up really what's going on in the market. Their Land Department are now starting to punish people that do not have signed Form A's. Form A is a landlord to agency contract to confirm that they want to let or sell the property. What's more interesting on it is that the circular's also gone to the portals. So the portals now have been told if they do not adhere to the Form A policy, they could potentially block their website on, I think it's the TRA.
Yep.
And this is on the circular. So that's a big red warning shot, I suppose, to a lot of...
It goes back to the property marketing side of things is broken. So the government are basically saying, no more. If you want to advertise a property online, the consumers need to be making sure if they're making an inquiry, it is available, it is for sale. And from a government to take such a heavy-handed approach, it's a good thing. I think from our side as a real estate company, we welcome it because we always adhere to best practices and ensure that everything we've got is available and for sale.
To be honest with you, we are killed with this. The way the market is set up at the moment, if you go on to Beirut, we are the number one true checked company by about 400%. We are
Which is what?
I think we've got like 600 verified properties.
What's true check though?
So True Check on Beirut is where you would verify their listing is real. You go to the property, take a picture of the property to make sure the GPS location matches up and shows it's really available. It's a very cool bit of tech they've got to show that it's available. So we're on 600 True Checks, and I think the second company, last time I checked, was on 160. So it shows that our listings are genuine. But what we found on other portals, and this goes across the board, is that there's so many companies listing fake properties 200,000 dirhams cheaper than we've got that is not available.
Just to get an inquiry.
But it's, in all honesty, if I wasn't a company that cared about reputation, I would do it.
Yeah. Because
what am I doing? I'm winning by generating a lead.
Yeah.
And that lead, then you can push them into another property you actually do have available. So the concept of being let's call it an unscrupulous agent it actually benefits to put fake listings on.
It's so short term though, because putting fake advertisements up and getting inquiries, people see through that. People see through, oh, it's not available. Oh, okay. They know it's not a real advert, and people are becoming wise to this. So
but
I think,
do you care? What I mean by that is if you're Carl Allsopp that's new to Dubai, you set up a company, you don't really care about your brand. You just want leads and money.
yeah, of course. But in years 2, 3, and 4, I'll play a big part in that.
How many people are thinking that way though? This is the problem.
Probably not that many, but the reality is now is that the number of listings that are online, you will actually see across all property portals, that number quite vastly reduced over the next 6 months because of the requirement now of doing a lot more to put your listing online. So basically what the government are saying is you now have to go online, fill out a government form and ensure that the other parties accepted their acknowledgement to have their property marketed. You would think anywhere in part of the world that is a normal thing to do, but here that must happen, and that the circular last month from the government have reinforced that now there is no second chances.
People are getting the fines, aren't they? 50,000 dirhams are thrown out there.
Yeah, they are.
Rough times when you get a 50 grand fine.
It's not nice at all. It's been a bit, I think it's safe to say it's been a little bit quieter over the summer in general. I've been anecdotally going around the office and speaking to people, and I think the big thing about this year in Dubai is that unlike last year where there's been travel restrictions in the UK, where last year you'd have to kind of do your 11 days somewhere before going to the UK, I think this year it's been quite frictionless. And I think what we found across the board is more people this year have gone away than they have done probably in previous few years. It's been a lot more easy to go anywhere. So I think we've been away for a
long time,
large part of the summer. And I think it's safe to say that what we found is obviously our kids have gone back to school this week, or my kids have.
You say my kids don't go to school?
Home, aren't they?
Homeschooled.
Homeschooled.
No, they're not. My child goes to nursery in case anyone's listening.
Nursery, yeah. But I think we can feel that Dubai is a lot busier, isn't it?
Well, it's the first time in, like I was going to say 2 months, but I've been away 50-something days. But the queues on the road, it's a sign for me. I was literally speaking to agents today, and I said, the summer I know is rough seas as a brokerage, as a business, not just Allsopp and Allsopp, but in if you're a food business or you're Jumbo Electronics, your general consumer is either on a summer holiday, and if you're a CEO or someone of, let's say, of significant wealth, they're normally out the country for 2 months. They normally avoid the summer in July and August and get back for the weather in September. So what I'd like to see is that people are back, and what that means when the roads are busy, it means that those people driving on the roads are all people that want to rent or buy a house.
Is Dubai recession proof? Because we did talk off camera before this, where it's busy. I've never known Dubai to be so positive in terms of its bullishness of where we're going, not just the property market but the country as a whole. And then just a few moments before camera, you read me a LinkedIn post of really
depressed you.
It depressed me a little bit. Basically, some stats someone shared with regards to employment numbers. You want to just?
I will shoot off to the employment numbers. But what I'm going to say about this, and it's important to say this, is that I think you are what you read. Okay, so I've read today that Dubai is now the #1 diamond dealer in the world, and they had $51.2 billion of diamonds that they trade in, and they're shouting that they're #1, and they've got the golden visas coming out, and the markets, everything's launching. So if you're in Dubai, you're in this, I'm going to call it a PR bubble. That everything is good here. But then I was reading the news yesterday, and it really depressed me when I read it, to be honest with you. I was like, oh, so this is on LinkedIn. Someone sent me this message. Someone said, the winter is coming, they've said to us. And they've said that Wayfair has laid off 870 jobs. Peloton, who we love, has laid off 3,000 of their workers and replaced their CEO. 10% of Shopify staff have been sacked. Tesla, 7% of their staff have been sacked. Ford, 8,000 people have been let go. Remax, 17,000. Netflix, 10%. I am going to say something to this caveat, because I read this and I started to digest it and think, wow, that doesn't look good for the world. And when you start to look at who the people are laying off, there's a lot of tech companies there. So my question I had out loud, the question for you really, do you think they've just rode the wave of tech? Because let's say Peloton exploded in lockdown, didn't it really? Yeah. And so did Netflix. Netflix boomed, really. Yeah. All of these big companies were tech companies that took the wave of that. Do you think that is just there, or do you think winter is coming?
Maybe they've overhired off really what 2021 was an absolute, it was a crazy year, particularly with stocks, and maybe they've actually overhired for
what they need,
what they really needed, and maybe they're just kind of resetting with what might happen. I mean, they talk about a recession and what might be coming. I mean, a recession could mean basically you've had 3 consecutive quarters of decline. Well, that you might not actually really feel that. The word recession sounds very
scary,
but actually, real world and real terms, it might not have a huge impact. And they talk about, you have deep recessions and you have one which might be reasonably shallow. It's tough to say what will happen, but the reality is I think, not saying Dubai is immune, but there's so many people coming into country, and that's just anecdotally now. There's so much positivity that I actually feel like the interest rate rises, I don't think will impact this place too much, because money is probably as cheap as what it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like the cost of doing business here at the moment is still very, very good. So
my theory is this. I think that, let's say, I was speaking to the CEO of Emaar Malls recently, that we're talking about 4 or 5 months ago, and I said, wow, look, that shop's closing down. I pointed at that shop. I went, wow, that shop's closing down. And he just said to me, yeah. He said, no problem. He said, it's normal. He said, shop's closed, but can I tell you something interesting? New ones open up. And it's the same thing with when you talk about the lockdown years ago, is that people, let's say they weren't doing estate agency, they become delivery drivers. And the people that were coding for Amazon end up coding for another company, let's say Stake, which just raised $8 million, and that's one local company in Dubai that's just raised. Hauser, for instance, the Hauser CEO is the ex-CEO or director of Kareem in the UAE, and worked at Amazon. So these people go through career changes, and really, Hauser didn't exist, he wouldn't be working there. So I think
what's fascinating for this region is I've actually not known so much money in terms of Series A, pre-Series A, Series B, money being raised in the tech sector, specifically for the Middle East. There really seems to be an appetite and some trust in regards to the direction of where this part of the world is going.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of growth ahead of us, which is exciting.
I'm gonna leave you with this, by the way, and I just want your opinion on this. Raising capital. So I have an opinion on raising capital, and it's an opinion that most people won't like, but I'm just gonna say it how I see it. Unless you have a vested interest in this business, I've seen so many companies raise capital and just burn the money to gain market share over profitability. And I think the world is changing so much. If you look at Purple Bricks in the UK, you look at their shares at the moment and their marketplace, they're announcing that they've had a bad year, they've had a bad quarter, which means they're going to cut the TV campaigns. Compass in the US, the biggest real estate company, has lost billions, and I was listening to or reading Mike Dalpreet's his report, and he was saying they've got 8 months of cash burn, and then they were talking about the report, and it's all these companies cash burning, meaning that they're spending money but profitability isn't coming in. So my question I've got for you, at some point with these prop tech companies, are we at that point where profitability is going to become an important factor in raising capital?
Well, I think I read a statistic where up to 90% of companies that go and have their Series A don't make it to Series B.
It's wild.
So if you're generating a large amount of money in terms of investment, if you don't prove a proof of concept, and that doesn't necessarily mean profitability, but you prove that what you've pitched is viable, never doesn't make it to Series B. Now, you're right, because a lot of these businesses over the years gone by, when we're within this tech bubble where they've gone to Series A, B, and C, they've generated revenue but not made profit. I think we're actually starting to see a bit of a table turn now, where actually people are starting to think actually profit is actually quite important, and I think there'll be more of an eye cast on that. I think gone are the days just allowing just raise and not making money. So I think you might see a bit of a change in strategy, I guess, in terms of people investment.
You mean going to present your Series A, if you can see I'm going to get to profit over I'm going to do turnover. And that is why, touch wood, as a business, we've never lost any money in this business. because in the nicest possible way, it's our money.
Yeah.
So there is a lot more care into it. We wouldn't just go, I'm going to put £1 million into an ad board today, because you're raising the money from a third party. So profitability is more important to me than growth, and that's why they say turnovers for sanity. Turnovers for vanity and profits for sanity.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'd leave you with.
Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.